the day. Usually I like to record these at night, but I found some time during today on my off day, sort of errand cleaning day. Anyway, hope you're not getting sick of me. I want to talk about something completely different. One of my favorite artists, and this is my artist appreciation series, Glenn Jones. I show this record to start because this is the one that I discovered first and got me into him. Glenn Jones is an American out of Boston, I think born in New Jersey but living in Boston. American primitive folk guitarist, experimentalist, primarily influenced by John Fahey and Robbie Basho. He did a lot of studying of Basho and actually was a good friend of John Fahey in his last 20 years or so. Just had to grab this. This is the last record with Glenn Jones's band Cul-de-sac with John Fahey. It's John Fahey and Cul-de-sac, the epiphany of Glenn Jones. This is John Fahey and some of his most experimental work. Animal sounds, field recordings, really cool sort of experimental. Cul-de-sac, which was Glenn Jones' band in the 90s. I have a record of his here. This is the one record I have by Cul-de-sac, which, as I said, was Glenn Jones' band. I Don't Want to Go to Bed. This is from 1995 on the Flying Nun label, actually. Flying Nun did some other records that weren't from New Zealand. But that's not how I got into him. I got into Glenn Jones working at Kim's in Manhattan around 2012, 2013, and this record came into the store. I just tried it out. Now, I just checked out, you should check out Michael Noted in Archives video from December. I'll link to it below, Acoustic World, I think he called it. And he featured this record, as well as some other American primitive folk, experimental folk guitarists. And he was talking about how bad the cover was. Now, I'm going to shed some light on these covers on all the records. These are all old vintage postcards. Which maybe doesn't make it not a bad cover, but it does explain, give some context, which to me then sort of informs it a little more. This is My Garden State. I'll show more of this in a minute. But Glenn Jones is one of the few artists that I have every single vinyl release in his artist discography. I can't say that about many. John Fahey, I come close. Robbie Basho, I come very close. I think I'm only missing one Robbie Basho. I'm a big collector of that kind of music. Now, I just started watching a documentary that Glenn Jones is featured in, interviewed, and he's done some research on Robbie Basho. It's called The Voice of the Eagle. I'll link to that below. It very much informs what Glenn Jones is doing and what he is, how he plays guitar. And how does he? Well, he's a fingerstyle guitarist. He likes to come up with his own tunings and do partial capo.
Part of my exploring open tunings involves the use of partial capos. I had the idea in about 1988 that changing the lower half of the strings would give me some options that wouldn't involve retuning. In this tuning, for instance, I have a tuning here. This is A, E, A, E, C, E. But I discovered that if I put my half capo on the 3rd fret, there was something attractive and compelling about that tuning for me. And this became the tuning that I use on the title song of my album, The Giant Who Ate Himself.
Tells stories through instrumental music. There are no vocals. He does use some field recordings and some sparse experimentation. He does play banjo as well, so the banjo is featured quite heavily. And it's just beautiful pastoral, melodic folk music, but like I said, the American primitive style. It's, I heavily associate it with, doing all sorts of things around the house, whether it's reading or cooking or, driving. One more thing about this record, we when we drive down to New York City a lot to visit family, we always listen to the track 2, Across the Tappan Zee, as we drive across the Tappan Zee Bridge, which is now known as the, I think, Mario Cuomo Bridge. But so Glenn Jones, once I got into him there, I started like digging into all of his records, and most of them have been reissued by Thrill Jockey, which is his current label. There's only, I think, one that hasn't been reissued, which I'll show. So here's his first record. This is The Wind That Blows Out. Originally from, I think this is from 2004. It's got a nice inner sleeve, and all of his inner sleeves have lyrics. Well, I'm sorry, not lyrics, but he likes to give descriptions about what the songs are, and they all have the tunings, the alternate tunings that he uses. This is from 2004. There's, a lot of tracks dedicated to the artists he loves. This is Fahey's Car, One Jack Rose, dedicated to the late great Jack Rose. Yeah, this is a beautiful album. Originally reissued in 2004 on Strange Attractors Audio House, a great Portland DIY experimental label. This is a reissue from Thrill Jockey. That's his first record. I believe his second is this bad boy, a double album, Against Which the Sea Continually Beats. Solos for 6 and 12 string guitar. Again, these covers, I will show you, or hopefully you've already seen it. These are all vintage postcards. I didn't know that until looking up Glenn Jones for this video. He utilized these old folky, sort of folk art postcards. Anyway, this is from 2006, also on that same label, Strange Attractors Audio House, but reissued by Thrill Jockey in 2017. Beautiful double album, some amazing tracks. David and the Phoenix, some long ones too on this. He does ragas on here, Freedom Raga. The teething necklace for John Fahey. So he's always keeping those old forefathers of the style front and center, telling stories, calling to his past through the songs. And the songs are they do feel kind of ancient sounding, and yeah, just lovely guitar music. Samples will be shown if they're not already. So this is Against Which the Sea Continually Beats. His third record, Barbecue Bob in Fishtown. This is the only one that has not been reissued. So this is the original Strange Attractors Audio House from 2009. Here it is on the back, all the descriptions of the songs. It gives you the tunings on it. Yeah, another old postcard. I don't know, I kind of like them. I mean, they're not... The covers could be a little bit of a red herring or misnomer. Like, what kind of music are you really going to get with this? There is another Glenn Jones who's probably more popular than this Glenn Jones, who's like an R&B singer. When you Google Glenn Jones, you usually get that Glenn Jones first. Usually it's a bit Glenn Jones Thrill Jockey, but I will link to some information about Glenn Jones, by the way. This one is, yeah, they're not dramatically different. Look, to be honest, like, you don't need every single Glenn Jones record like I do. But this is beautiful stuff. The one that sticks out to me, Dead Reckoning, Side B. Beautiful. Barbecue Bob and Fishtown, again, solos for 6 and 12 string guitar and 5-string banjo. After that, there's a couple of EPs that I want to say these were Record Store Day. I don't remember. This is Glenn Jones split with the Black Twig Pickers, a group out of, I think it's Virginia. One side is Glenn Jones, one side is the Black Twig Pickers. More beautiful stuff. Again, postcard. Here's another one, Welcome to Wherever I Go. This is sort of a extra live track or live material. Mixed and mastered by Matthew Acevedo. He's got one of two collaborators on just about every record, Matthew Acevedo and Laura Baird, who I believe was in Espers with Meg Baird, her sister, I think that's right. On here, second side has a shorter version actually of a track, one of my favorite tracks, and a track that you are hearing in the background, by the way. The Orca Grand Cement Factory at Victorville, which features Sean Nugent on guitar, who I believe is an Irish guitarist. This is a recording in 2011. That's a live recording. I'm going to talk about that song again in a second. So the other track on here, from a forgotten session, is believed to have been recorded during a break in studio sessions for Jack Rose's Dr. Ragtime and His Pals album in Philly, 2007. Jack Rose passed away in 2009. Another guitarist in this style, very influential. I do have one of his records and a few of his CDs. Jack Rose, really important guitarist as well. And this EP, Welcome to Wherever I Go. Next record, and one of the two I would recommend, is The Wanting. Again, an old postcard. This is a double album. Some of his most beautiful compositions on here. They're all beautiful, really. I think this is probably the second record I got. And this does feature the full 18-minute version of the Orca Grand Cement Factory at Victorville, which features Chris Corsano. Great experimental jazz drummer. He's actually local to this area, upstate New York near Ithaca. He comes into Angry Mom Bunch. Good guy. Chris Corsano, if you don't know, has collaborated with all kinds of people, primarily with Harry Pussy's guitarist Bill Orcutt and their sort of duo recordings, which are fantastic. I have a few of those, and a few Bill Orcutt solo records. Harry Pussy's is just a complete other beast, sort of unhinged, free, experimental, I guess rock. Anyway, Chris Corsano, he's on this one track here, but then there's tons of other great ragas, more melodic beauty. Glenn Jones on Thrill Jockey. This is 2011. And after that, we get the record that I first heard and got me into him, the one that Michael also showed. As I mentioned, this does feature Laura and Meg Baird on banjo and guitar. I'll put some inserts and video of them playing together. Across the Tappan Zee. Blues for Tom Carter of Charlambara. I can never say that group. Charlambarides? I forget how you say that name. Not really a huge fan of them, but anyway. Bergen County Farewell. This is all recorded in New Jersey, in his house. I guess he has a house in New Jersey. A lot of the videos you'll see of him, he's recording, I believe, at that house. This, of course, like all the records, includes really great descriptions, tunings, and yeah, some notes behind each track. Here's a great picture of them performing. I love this guy. And yeah, other than Michael, I just discovered that video. I've known about Michael's channel for a while, and I watch his videos, but I hadn't seen that video, and was happy to find that. After that, here's another postcard, Fleeting from 2016. This has got one of my favorite banjo tracks of his. Let's see, Spokane River Falls on B1. There's a tribute to Basho, portrait of Basho as a young dragon. There's Glenn. He's in his 60s now. I mean, the cul-de-sac was around for a long time, and he was, I don't know what he was doing in the 80s, but he's been making some amazing records recently. This is the colored variant on Thrill Jockey. And like all great insert or liner notes with descriptions and tunings. And I like this cover, man. I don't know, check this rabbit out. It's great. Beautiful. I also picked this up. This was a Record Store Day record on Thrill Jockey from, I think this is 17. This is a live album with his sort of engineer, Matthew Azevedo. This is a good example of RSD where you can find like an obscure title that no one's looking for, and you can find this sort of sometimes marked down. I ended up getting this on the same day because of that Angry Mom, my shop where I work. You know, we sort of get to pick releases before they hit the floor. So I picked this one out. This is recorded in 2015 in Boston at the Waterworks Museum, and this is a stellar recording. It features Glenn Jones on guitars, banjo, and then Matthew Azevedo doing synthesizer, harmonium, soundscapes, and signal processing. Live, sort of like a Fripp Eno, with Fripp being Jones and Eno being Azevedo. He's live signal processing what Glenn Jones is doing. He's doing it with a very subtle sleight of hand. You know, it's not like crazy, it's not like no pussyfooting or anything, but he's treating and processing and mutating the sound. His guitar sounds real-time live, and this is wonderful. It says, for a trippy You Are There 3D listening experience, play on headphones. Okay, I haven't done that. Maybe I'll do that. And the most recent record, another postcard, is The Giant Who Ate Himself and Other New Works for 6 and 12 string guitar with this frog here. This is another limited color on Thrill Jockey. This features the great track From Frederick to Fredericksburg, which is all about a ride Glenn Jones took with Jack Rose before he passed, where they went to visit the great 78 collector, Joe Buzzard, who, if you don't know, is one of the premier and foremost collectors of 78 RPM records in the world. He's got one of the most astounding collections and a real character. He's actually on early John Fahey recordings, Joe Buzzard. So they went to visit him, and he doesn't let everyone come in. You have to be sort of lucky to go see him. And they went to visit him, and this song, From Frederick to Fredericksburg, is all about that trip with Jack Rose. There's also a Christmas track, technically, a different kind of Christmas carol. I can't really like. These records are all great. I would just say if you see any of these in your shop, I bet they won't be expensive. Just try one. If you like the Fahey, Basho, Harry Tossig, Max Oaks, Don Beekoff, that style of guitar, primitive guitar. And then the only other two things I have with this is one and only 7-inch. This is in the VDSQ series, a pretty long-running series with experimental guitarists. All sorts of guitar players have done these, you name it, big and small. So this is the one single he did for them. And then this weird double 10-inch, which has got some really cool art, not a postcard. It is with Chris Corsano again, drumming, Glenn Jones playing guitar, and some spoken word by a guy named David Greenberger, doing poetry, spoken word. Yeah, it's a weird mix. It doesn't always work, but it's really kind of a cool release. I like this image of the three of them there. It's a double 10 on the what label is this on? Oriana. Ocarina, number 8. And it's called An Idea in Everything by Glenn Jones, David Greenberger, and Chris Corsano on drums. A wonderful record. So that's all my Glenn Jones. I just wanted to throw some light on someone not really discussed very much. Michael, thanks for doing that. Like I said, I'll do all those links below. And thank you everyone for checking this out. I'm going to talk more about the jazz auction I teased, or I showed earlier in the week at the Angry Mom. I got some records from it. Alright, that's about it. Take care, BC.